this is where my eyes got opened because of our situation. Hi everyone, this is Charm again and welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal finance, entrepreneurship, and adulting how-tos. So in 2020, we were introduced to the word lockdown, wherein we were required to stay in our homes because of a pandemic. And today is the first day we got back our electricity after 23 days because of Typhoon Odette or Typhoon Rai that happened in December 16, 2021. During the period following the typhoon, the Visayas and Mindanao were at a standstill. We didn't have electricity, we didn't have running water, potable water was hard to find, no Wi-Fi, network signals and data were also pretty bad, and it's hard to get fuel because the lines at the gas stations were very long, and there were major damages to infrastructure, commercial, and personal properties. And shipments and deliveries were either cancelled or really delayed. So can you imagine how this affects the economy but also people's personal lives, people's personal day-to-day earning, living, work, and just everything. I really never imagined something like this could happen. You would see it in movies, you would play scenarios in your head wherein you would try to figure out what you would do in case of any emergencies, what's the first thing that you would grab, how you would make it through, what you would do in general, right? We're in the 21st century after all, and sometimes technology makes us forget how vulnerable and how barbaric we can be without electricity. Like, everything was relying upon electricity talaga. So today is a very fitting video. I want to talk about emergency funds because I personally had a lot of realizations. Nagamit ko talaga yung emergency fund ko, and I have some changes on what I want to do with my future emergency funds. I've talked about emergency funds a lot in my channel, but I've never really broken them down, what they are, what they're for, how you can compute them, and how you can save for them. So I hope that this video can help you out. Okay, so let's jump right into it. What is an emergency fund? It's actually very straight to the point. It's a fund for emergencies. What I want to define here is what are emergencies. So emergencies are basically things that are unexpected but very urgent as well. So first example is a medical emergency. So again, it has to be unexpected. This doesn't really include like cosmetic surgeries or things that you can actually plan out for, like a LASIK or etc. Next is a loss of income. So in case you lose your job or something happened to your business and you need time to rebuild, then an emergency fund really comes in handy for this. So next are natural calamities, just like the recent one that we experienced, typhoons, earthquakes, fires, volcanic eruptions. So these are really disruptive and also very unexpected. So make sure that you prepare for these. Next are emergencies relating to your productivity. So of course, when it comes to a hindrance with you earning, so for example, your laptop broke or you lost Wi-Fi and you need to rent a co-working space, you need to work at a coffee shop for a couple of days, weeks, or months, diba? So an emergency fund will also come in handy for this. And lastly are emergencies that happen to your home. You may need repairs or maintenance in your home, or maybe sa mga appliances nyo, bigla na lang nasira and you have to have it fixed or you have to buy a new one. So of course, we need to budget for the wear and tear of our household appliances and all of that. But there are just some times, diba, that bago pa and you didn't expect it to be broken or to be replaced so soon. So those are considered emergencies as well. So I wanna quickly talk about what people usually do if wala silang emergency fund. So first is, of course, they need to borrow money or mangungutang sila, which kind of gets uncomfortable. And the next one is they need to sell their assets or things. They might need to sangla their jewelry or their mobile phones, their gadgets, or they need to sell their house, their car, diba? Or things like that. So it can really be a financial struggle and stress, especially if you're dealing with, for example, medical emergencies, which can get really expensive as well. And next is that their friends and families fundraise for them. They might be selling cupcakes, cakes, t-shirts, or raising up donations, diba? So with this, it's not really a sustainable way to go about it because you can't just keep on fundraising if naubusan ka na ng pera. And lastly, this pertains to medical emergencies that could have been avoided or could have been saved if meron ka lang emergency fund. Lastly is that you could die. If you don't have access to all first three options, then that's a high possibility, and I don't want anybody to experience that. I know it sounds bleak, but it's reality. If you are prepared and you have enough money for emergencies, then of course you are better off than people who are unprepared. Okay, now let's talk about the computation. There are two main ways that you can go about it. So first, and the most commonly used one, is around 3 to 6 times or 3 to 12 times your monthly expenses. So with this, you need to be able to identify how much you are spending every month on your necessities. So not necessarily on the extras like shopping, eating out, travel, ganon. So I mentioned in my budgeting video how to identify what is necessary. So things that you need and able to survive. So your housing, your utilities, your mortgage, your loans, your food, and other essentials. So, essentials lang talaga yung kailangan. And if you know how much you need for that, for example, you need around 10,000 pesos every month for you to survive, then you will save 3 to 12 times of that, and that is around 30,000 to 120,000. I know it sounds a lot and medyo malaki yung range, so let me explain why I think it should be around 3 to 12 times. If you have 2 or more sources of income and you're a high earner and you have very minimal liabilities, wala kang loans or wala kang masyadong loans, and wala kang mga hindi ka breadwinner, wala kang pinapakain, then you can have around 3 months of your monthly expenses. If you only have one source of income, I would go for around 6 months of your monthly expenses. This is because I think it's more risky and you're in a more volatile position if you don't have around 6 months of monthly expenses. It might take a while for you to find another job or to regain your income, so it's really better that you are prepared. So dumilim na talaga, so nag-ring light na lang ako. So lastly, if you're a risk taker and high volume yung usage ng pera mo, or you have a lot of expenses, you have some or a lot of liabilities like a home loan, a car loan, a business loan, and a huge chunk of your income relies on maybe just one major source, then I would recommend to have around 6 to 12 months of your monthly expenses. I'll talk about in a bit where you should put your emergency funds, but let's move on to the second way of computing how much your emergency fund could be. So if you don't know your expenses just yet, you can use this table. It's a rule of thumb that I made depending on your salary. So this is based on the assumption that you spend around 70% lang of your income. So this should cover you for 6 months. What you can also do if your salary is not here is take your salary and multiply it to 4.2. So for example, if 10,000 pesos yung salary nyo, you need to have 42,000 pesos as your emergency fund. Okay, now let's talk about where you should put your emergency fund. This is where my eyes got opened because of our situation. The ATM lines were so long, like hours long talaga, because very few ATMs were open because the electricity was down. So only buildings that has generator and weekend pa yun. So even the bank branches were also closed. So what you should do is to keep around 5 to 10,000 pesos as cash. So I didn't used to think I needed cash kasi pwede naman online lahat, but walang wifi, walang data, and people are accepting credit card or debit card naman, but no, even the POS terminals were unavailable because bad yung signal and walang electricity yung iba, diba? So yeah, that's really very important. I realized to have cash on hand. Another rule of thumb that you can use is to keep 1 month of emergency fund on hand if malaki yung pamilya nyo, if malaki yung household nyo. So for the rest of the, let's say you're keeping 3 months or 6 months, for the rest of the money, you can put it in a digital bank. So when I say digital bank, it's because digital banks offer a much higher interest than traditional banks. So these are banks that don't really have physical branches. So I'm not saying you don't need a traditional bank because most of the time that's the most convenient way to withdraw. You transfer from your digital bank to your traditional bank and you withdraw over the counter or through an ATM. Digital banks naman have ATMs already, but usually it is capped up to 50,000 pesos lang. So if you need a bigger amount, you need to withdraw a bigger amount, then you need that over the counter feature. So that's why I think traditional banks are still important. But I myself don't keep a lot of money in my traditional banks. So I have a video already about digital banks. So for the rest of your, 2 months or 5 months, lagay nyo sa digital bank. And if you want to have more emergency fund pa, like 6 months or 1 year, then you can keep them in easily withdrawable investment. For example, Pag-ibig MP2, it can keep your capital intact. Yes, it has a 5-year holding period, but you can withdraw it naman before the 5 years, but you won't gain interest. But at least you have the option to just leave it there if wala namang emergency nangyari in 5 years. And if you have to withdraw it early, there's no fee, there are no charges, o walang penalty. You can even put them in, mutual funds, UITF, stock markets. So these are investments that you can withdraw your money around 1 to 3 banking days. So, hindi pwede weekend. But, yeah, within 3 days max, siguro, you can get your money na. So, another example is a time deposit. So, I say easily withdrawable investments kasi it's harder if you put your emergency fund in a real estate, diba? And if kailangan mo yung pera and there's an emergency, it's very hard to liquidate a real estate property. And most of the time, when you want to sell that property, you have to sell it at a loss or not at the ideal or highest possible price that you can sell it for because you are in a hurry. And brokers and buyers will know that you're in a hurry. And this is when you can hear the terms like sacrifice sale, rush sale, diba? It's not ideal that you put your emergency fund in these investment vehicles. So, dapat easily withdrawable siya 1 to 3 days maximum. So, you might be thinking, why am I putting some of my emergency funds in investments? What if palugi ko siyang kailangan ibenta, diba? But my thinking kasi, if it's like 6 months to 1 year, that's also a sizable amount of money. That's like a couple 100,000 probably. And it's sayang naman if it's just really sitting in a bank account, even though if your bank account is earning a minimal amount of like 2.5 to 4% per annum, and you might not use them for 5, 8 years, 10 years, diba? Kasi wala namang emergency nangyari wherein you need that big of an amount. That's why I think that you can still make use of some forms of investments for these. So the fourth thing that you can use, and this is a tool that I feel like is very important in emergencies as well, is a credit card. And you can use a debit card, but I would recommend a credit card more kasi mas malaki yung credit limit na pwede mong makuha, right? When you have a credit card kasi, assuming that there is electricity, you can get access to bigger amounts of money right that instant, diba? So, when it comes to credit cards, make sure lang talaga that you are using money that you know you are able to pay. So, meaning, you have that cash in the bank, but maybe sirado yung bank because it's the weekend, or you have to go to the bank because it's over the counter, or it's a holiday and you can't get access to your money right away, or may lag because it's PesoNet, or yeah, there are just so many reasons that it will take you around 1 to 3 days to get your money from either digital banks or traditional banks. So that's why I feel like a credit card, for example, in hospitals, credit cards are accepted. So that's one usage I can see that can be really useful to have a credit card. So by the way, if you guys want to apply to a credit card, I really recommend the City Rewards card. I use the City Premier Miles, pero medyo hindi na kasi masulit yung rewards niya ngayon. I recommend the City Rewards card because it's no annual fee for life. So that's 2,500 pesos a year that you get to save if you register or get a credit card right now. I will put the link down below, or you can register through this link. It's until February 28 ata. So yeah, make sure to get your City credit card right now. It's my absolute most used credit card and favorite ko talaga dahil dami niyang rewards, daming perks, and yeah. Okay, so those are where I think you should put, or the tools that you need for your emergency fund. Now let's talk about just quick tips when it comes to your emergency fund. First is to replenish and update your emergency fund. So I say replenish because you're going to be using up your emergency fund. Maybe nakunan siya ng mga 10%, 20%, diba? And you always have to replenish that. Another is update because your lifestyle will increase or will upgrade as well, diba? And you can't have the emergency fund parang outdated. So if you used to spend 10,000 pesos a month and maybe you got married na, you have a family, and now you spend 20,000 pesos a month. So if you only kept 30,000 there or 3 months of your monthly expenses, it's no longer enough kasi that's only 1.5 months na lang of your current expenses. So make sure to constantly replenish and update your emergency fund. Number 2 is to speed up the process of saving for your emergency fund. Use your 13th month or your bonuses for it. Kasi yung 13th month, that's immediately 1 month salary na. So that's a really big help for your emergency fund. Just to give you guys context, if you're computing right now how much your emergency fund should be and you're getting intimidated, you're getting sad kasi ang laki ng amount and you feel like it will take forever, it actually took me 2 years to build my emergency fund, and ngayon nagamit ko siya ng konti, so I have to replenish that again. So that's just really the natural cycle of emergency fund. Normal lang talaga yan. So I'll make another video on saving tips, not just for emergency fund but in general as well, for your goals and all of that. And of course, I'll do a 2021 to 2022 goals video as well. And yeah, make sure to watch out for those videos. If you like this video, then please hit the thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Forward this video or share this video to your friends and families that you think should have an emergency fund as well, which is everyone. Everyone needs to have an emergency fund. So make sure to share this to them as well. And during my forced break because of the typhoon, we got to 150,000 subscribers. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and ring that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload another video. So yeah, that's it for our video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, this is Charm, and I will see you in my next video. The digital banks na